Sorry I had to make so many people put down their beers. I was getting a lot of dirty looks. Don't worry, there will be more beer afterwards, I promise. I just want to thank everybody for coming. So this is the first Online Marketing Dublin meetup of 2019. So we're really excited to have everybody here. We only started up kind of halfway through last year doing Online Marketing Dublin, and the goal of the meetup is to encourage marketers to network. There's such a big community of marketers here in Dublin, so we're going to be planning lots more talks, and ideally we want to get to know the community a lot better. So we hope we'll see your guys' faces again further at other meetups. So if you guys aren't familiar with what we do at Rebrandly, we're a link management solution, and what we focus on is getting companies to put their brand name in every link they share with branded links. So we work with individuals, SMBs, and also enterprises, and we're trying to change the way that people share their links online. So if anyone has any questions about Rebrandly, you can track me down afterwards, but for the minute, I won't hold us back from Ed any longer. So Ed Giansante, up until very, very recently, was the global community manager at Dropbox. So can we give him a round of applause to welcome him?
Hi guys, how are you? Good to see you. That's well, there's an empty space here, guys. If you want to come closer, it's okay. I won't bite. Cool. So who came from work? Who's actually tired from work? Came in from work just now. Okay, guys. So we need to make something here to keep you guys excited. Okay. So let's just do some quick warm up. Do you mind just standing up for like 2 minutes? Come on, let's do it. Okay, make it. Yeah, okay. Just some stretching, just like release your shoulders and tension a little bit. Yes, like put your arms up a little bit. Yes. You won't be able to put your arms down like on sidewise, so you can just like clap with me on 1, 2, 3. Yay! All right, guys, that's good. You can sit down now. That's just to give the energy, because as much as it sounds like super easy for me to do, I'm not a fitness professor or anything like that. This is super uncomfortable for me to do that here at 6 o'clock. Feels awkward, actually 7 o'clock. But you have to do it because you need to get this out of the door and then get the energy bumping. Cool. So I'm here to talk to you guys about brand ambassadors. And I know there's people from the embassy here that felt maybe ambassadors would be something related to that. I have to say it's not, sorry. But let me introduce you to myself first. So my name is Ed, and it's really hard every time I say I am Ed. Maybe because of the beard, people think I'm saying I'm Ahmed. I don't know, something really Egyptian. I am Ed. My name is Ed. Cool. So Ed, from Brazil, been living in Ireland for 11 years now. And I was, as Katie said, working for Dropbox for 4 years. Before Dropbox, I worked for Zynga company. Zynga was the gaming company that makes Farmville, Mafia Wars, maybe games you have seen and were really annoyed by on Facebook back in the days. So I worked there for 4 years as well. I also worked for a lot of advertising agencies like McCann Erickson, and before that I worked for Intel in Brazil. So a lot of background in marketing, a little bit of advertising, and now communities for the last like 8-10 years. I also founded a website that's called eDublin. Who here knows eDublin? Yay! That's great. Thank you guys. And you guys know that because I just told you now. Cool. So eDublin is my kind of personal side job that I started when I moved to Ireland. I wanted to create something to help people because there was no information in Portuguese out there. And I started blogging, and then this blog kind of grew into a massive community. It has like its own channels. There's people working on it. So we do events as well for like 1,000 people in Brazil. It's always sold out, which is really nice, really exciting. But I'm not here to talk about eDublin. But because I'm no longer with Dropbox, if you want to share something, you can use the hashtag eDublin so I can find you. Because if you use Dropbox, the social media team at Dropbox is going to find it. It's not me. So cool. Let's get started, guys. So before we even start, I always want to get into this kind of why, because there's a lot of people from different backgrounds here. So who here works with community or has a community in their company? Okay, 1, 2, okay, yeah, I thought it would be like it was going to be really mixed. So I won't create like anything super in-depth here and like, oh my God, this is the science of communities. I'm going to talk to you a very light level on that. But who here feels that you're part of a community? Who feels like I'm part of a community? Okay, maybe skydiver community or something like that. Cool. There's a skydiver guy here, if you guys don't know. You should talk to him later. Cool, that's good, that's good. So that's a good start. And I'm gonna use this room here on you guys here and Rebrandly as probably like my experiment when I'm talking about communities a little bit, okay? Also, you see that you notice that I speak really fast, and the reason why I realize is because I've been listening to audiobooks at twice the speed for the last few years, and that got my brain in a weird kind of, let's go fast. So tell me if I'm going too fast, okay, guys? So before we get into the community point, the why here is actually really good because we're going to use that as our core and our anchor around the topic here. So when I think about communities, I think about these companies like Dropbox, Facebook, you guys, Google, Rebrandly, even Dogpatch. Everyone kind of wants to build a community, and there are several reasons why they want to build a community, sometimes online. And then I got the most common reasons why they want to do it. First one is the cost savings. Like, why cost savings? Well, let me explain, like, plain simple. Companies like Dropbox offer you, like, a free service, right? It's free for you to store your files there unless you go over a limit and then you have to pay. But, well, someone has to pay for that bill, right? Someone has to pay for the servers, someone has to pay for marketing, someone has to pay for support, everything. And you need to find, like, that money from somewhere. It's not always the user base that's paying that will actually, cover the expenses that you have for that. And that happens in a lot of companies like Spotify, Amazon, every company that has the service that you don't really have to pay, but still you have every offering around you. Maybe Rebrandly may have something around the premium and freemium service. That's when you actually need to find out ways to optimize your solutions. And one of the ways they do is through cost savings, and I'm going to go through that a little bit later. So that's one of the ways they do that. The second thing that companies want to do is gather feedback from the product. So what's happening to my product? What are people liking or disliking? So they want to do that. And they usually go like, yeah, I want to do a community so I can gather feedback for that. And the third and most common is because everyone else is doing it. They're like, yeah, sure, should do it because look, the guys there have a community. In fact, 81% of the companies now have a community. So imagine yourselves, like, if you're part of one community, imagine like every single company in the world, like 80% of them have a community. You're not going to be part of all of that, right? It's too much. And it's really hard to actually make people feel they belong to that community, but they're just like, everyone is doing it. So walk through that in a little bit now. So does it make sense so far, why people are doing communities? I'm going to explain, yeah? Okay, yeah, cool. We have a marketing guy there, very good, cool. Now, you probably like marketing guy and people like from customer journeys. Have you seen customer journeys before or things like that before, user journeys? So user journey, let me explain first. So user journey is like when you're doing like anything, like sales, whatever, you actually have like how do they find out about the product? How do they feel that this is important for them? And then how do they acquire that product and feel happy about it and then get support and then feel excited and then buy more? And then it's like a journey, right? It's a journey of purchase. And usually in marketing, you have like the funnels and it gets smaller and smaller. For support, the way it works is people have a product, they find out about something, like, yay, something new, cool here. And then they're like, yeah, that's happening. Oh, what's this? Something new here. And then, shit, something broke. And then they're like, I'm pissed off. I'm going to post on Facebook because I'm pissed off. And then they get this amazing support, and they're like, yeah, it's so exciting. And then they have a happy ending. Be careful. Happy ending sounds something like, in English, it's not that good. So it's, they have a great ending and great successful story. And that's actually how people paint the picture for you. That's how they tell you a great user journey is. If you're in support, you're going to see that a lot of times. I'll tell you in advance, this is bullshit, because that's not how things work. And why not? Well, because things in the traditional way are kind of broken. Like, you don't really, nowadays, you don't go to support. You don't call someone if your Dropbox is not working. You don't call someone if Gmail is not loading. It's actually impossible to call someone from Google if Gmail is not working. And that's because there's no way for them to absorb the cost for like millions and millions of users. Dropbox has 500 million users using their account. So imagine if they had to give support for every single person who had an issue. It would be impossible. It would be like a minus $2 billion per year. It's insane. It's just not possible to do that. So traditional support is broken for companies like this type of companies. I would imagine companies like Rebrandly and even Dogpatch as well, if they were to give support to everyone who calls in to just like, hey, can I come in, check in, what's going on? It would be impossible. It would be too cost expensive for them. And why is the traditional support also broken? Well, if you're doing support, you will notice metrics. I won't deep dive into this because I see a lot of people who don't work in support here. But usually, let's say the median of a great support is you acknowledge 100% of the cases. That means that every single person who contacts you should be acknowledged. So every single person who touches your channels should receive some sort of feedback like, yeah, I got this. Oh, thanks for your report. Thanks for this. That's acknowledgement, 100%. You should reply within 1 hour. How many companies reply back within 1 hour when you contact your support? Yeah, that's true. Well, sometimes you need to escalate cases, right? It's like, oh, we need to talk to this needs to go to like a technical support, whatever. 75% of the cases should be handled by the first level of support. How often do you get this like, oh, I have to escalate every single time? And overall customer satisfaction, that's like a measure of like how happy people are with the support, should be around 85%. I'm pretty sure it's not the average. I know that because I know some companies here in Dublin especially, they're like around 50, 55%. So customer support, the traditional way, is broken, right? We know that now. We know that a lot of people want to do communities, so let's get to the cool things now, and let's rephrase all of that stuff that we saw before. So the why. Why I say why? The common reasons, the whys people do that. Why do you want to do support that is cost-saving, that's like deflecting contact? Because it's scalable, right? You want to make sure that everyone have a way to get support, but not necessarily having to pay a customer support rep to do all of that. You also want this community meaningful. You want to gather insights from them. And because everyone else is doing it, this is the new norm. Like, this is how you expect things to work. Nowadays, if you go like to WhatsApp, you go to Messenger on Facebook, this is how you expect to receive contact from your brand. You don't have to call them anymore. Here uses who's using like Facebook Messenger to contact a brand on Facebook sometimes. Yeah, you contact them. Who goes on WhatsApp? I think Brazil is insane. Like everyone does business on WhatsApp now. It's just crazy. So yeah, it's all happening like that. It's like people expect this to be the norm for them, right? Now it's going to be a little bit technical for some people. I hope it's not, but let me explain you like this, and please tell me if it doesn't make sense to you. This is usually how you break down support queries. So every time someone comes to you and asks a question, you usually break it down in this type of way. Let's say you're going to get like a random question here. So someone goes here to Dog Patch and says, where's the toilet? Where's the toilet? It's a pretty like how-to or troubleshooting question. Like, hey, you just go there. Like, how do I get to the toilet? There you go. How do I sync my files on Dropbox? That's a how-to question, right? Usually how-to questions or troubleshooting questions, which means, hey, did you turn off your computer and turn it on again? This is a troubleshooting question. These are the majority of the cases you've received in support, by far. Then you have another kind of chunk of things that are product requests or feature requests. People are like, hey, it would be great if your product could do that, or it would be great if your Dropbox logo was red instead of blue. This is also a feature request that you get. Then you have a few cases that are actual problems that you have in your product, like something is not working. And then you have another kind of chunk of information that's something that requires an agent to handle. So companies like Facebook may have like, oh, my account got hacked, so you need to handle this with someone from the company. You can't really have someone else to help you. Now, when we look at this from the strategic view, these are opportunities that you have to deflect contact. So when I told you guys about the cost savings, that's what you go for, right? So that's kind of like how you see this. So let me make a little graph from me here to help you guys understand this. So this is the traditional broken way of doing support. Someone has an issue, boom, opens a ticket, agent goes in, boom, replies to that ticket. But because the agent is getting like a lot of tickets, it's impossible for him to handle that, right? Right. What happens also is that you actually don't really size the silent majority. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me explain to you guys here. Today at the event, before we started, a lot of you guys were down there, right, talking. I saw a lot of you guys quiet on your own, and probably you guys wouldn't share anything. A lot of you would be like just quiet there, right? But then you have like 2 or 3 guys who are like very talkative, very energetic, talking to everyone. These tend to be the ones that will be very vocal. And then at the end of this presentation, it will be like, who disliked the presentation? Then these 2 or 3 guys will be like, oh, yeah, that's shit. Okay, I disagree. And then the others will be like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, or not even reply to the survey or whatever feedback way of getting this mechanism. So when you do like things like that, like a ticket, if you have an issue in companies like Dropbox, people usually just give up because it's a free product. If it doesn't work, you're just like, that's fine. I don't need to use it. I just move on into something else. I go to Google Drive. And if Facebook is not loading, maybe I'll try later. You don't even bother much because it's free. And that's usually the expectation level from people on that. So this kind of support doesn't leave you like a lot of room to actually understand what's actually happening to the product. And that's why we want to kind of move into like the community way of doing it, which is a little bit like that. So imagine like you have an issue, not one single person have an issue. So again, if my question is, how do I get to the toilet from Dogpatch? Well, maybe more than one person here wants to go to the toilet and one wants to find out how to get there. So maybe we can join together and learn together how do we get to the toilet. I know this is a terrible example, but I'm trying to find something like that works for you guys here. Where's the pizza? Like, what are the flavors? You can actually see that, so you can actually bulk by groups of like people with the same questions. So usually when you do that, there's another kind of effect that happens, which is if I ask you guys, who has been to Dogpatch before actually? Anyone? Awesome. So if I ask some of you guys where is the toilet, you may know where it is, right? Do you know where it is? Super. So guess what? You're not working at Dogpatch, you're not working at Rebrandly, but you could help me, right? So you were able to help me. What does that mean for the brand, for Rebrandly and for Dogpatch? That they don't need to spend time helping you guys because you're going to help me and I help you and we figure things out. And that's what happens in the community. People help each other. They help, oh, I can help you with this, I can help you with that. And that's kind of the sense of community. It's when the brand no longer has the ownership, they just leave that with the group. And they will figure it out. It's just their own way of doing things. So that's, I hope it's very basic of communities, but it's giving you like a little bit of insights on why this is important. Cool. So then what happens as the next stage of that is that, well, you're going to notice that like maybe there's one guy here that knows everything. He's like the know-it-all. And because he knows it all, he's like, whenever you're doing this, like if you're doing like the metrics and understanding like who's the most active user, you identify this is the potential super user. This guy is potentially someone who knows a lot about the brand and I could actually talk to him. This is like maybe someone who's important. And then you go back and ask like, Ed, weren't you going to talk to us about brand ambassadors? Yes, I was. Yes, so that's actually how we build brand ambassadors. So we're going to start now, okay? Cool, are you guys still with me? Yeah. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay, so I give you a lot of context so it now makes sense because I wasn't sure like if the audience would be like, no, I don't know if you know much about the ambassador program. Now you know, which is great. No, communities make sense. You understand why this is important and not why brand ambassador. So why do we do that? So let's get to the real user journey. Remember that one I was doing with the graphics? So that was bullshit. So this is like my way of doing it. So how do you search when you're actually looking for help? You Google it, you ask someone you know, or you go and ask on social media, right? There's usually like the 3 key ways of doing things. And when you Google, what happens? The best SEO is going to win. Not necessarily the best answer, but you also get like some solved questions, like, hey, solution to this issue, problem fixed. You also get like a lot of blog articles. Yeah, that's good. When you ask someone, they tend to be quite brief, especially if you're asking them like, if you're calling or WhatsApping someone, sending an audio, and they're like, yeah, this is how you do it. They're quite honest, usually, when you ask a friend or someone you know. And above all, you can trust them, right? I mean, I hope you can trust someone you know. Oh, cool. When you ask on social media, what happens? And sorry, Facebook. You get a lot of opinions from different people. That's good. That's not bad, right? Oh, yeah, you should try this. And like, oh, who's that guy? That usually happens. You get a ton of links, especially if you're asking for recommendations, like 700 hotels you should go. You're like, oh, God. But then it gets political, and then you're like, fuck, I should stop this, because we're just now getting into fights here. Let's just close down this conversation. But there are some really good things that are happening around this. Some of them, like the honesty, being direct, straightforward, people you can trust, maybe getting solutions and opinions from new people. These are good things, right? These are things that you're like, okay, I like that. That's like, I would appreciate that. So when you're actually doing like, this is like something that I stole from Dave Spinks. If you don't know him, he's a really good community manager back in New York, I think he's now, but he's doing a lot of events in California. And he created like the 7 P's of community. So when you think about like, keep that journey in mind, and then let's think about this. I'm gonna help you, so if you wanna take a picture, that's the next slide you should take a picture of. People, so first thing when you're thinking about, I'm gonna use this room as an example, okay? So people, who are the members of this group, this meetup that we're doing here? Well, we have a group of people who are interested in marketing, communities, in building up operations. They're just curious, they want free pizza, whatever. It's a group of people here, right? Why does it exist? Well, maybe there's a branding opportunity for Rebrandly, but there's also an opportunity for us to network. There's the purpose behind it, right? There's a need for us to be here. What's the place? Dark Patch is the place. Participation, what do we do here? We eat pizza, we grab beer, we talk, we have talks, all of this happens. What are the values, the guidelines? Well, one of the guidelines that I just saw is you cannot get in with beer. That's one guideline, a rule. You should kind of, what are the other values? Like, think about like this, as like, I'm trying to put this example here so it makes sense for you guys. How does it grow? Well, it grows because we're actually going to invite new people here, and these new people are going to invite new other groups, and you guys may enjoy it, and you're going to bring other friends, someone from work, so that kind of helps the community grow. And how do we measure performance? Well, maybe Kid is going to send you a survey. Did you like the conversation? Did you like the talk? Yes or no? Maybe you're going to ask you guys at the end, like, hey, how did you find it? Like, was it good? Was it bad? And you're going to measure your performance. What's the number of people who actually said they're going to come, and they actually came in? So that's the attendee levels. So there are several ways you can actually do that, right? I'm using this as an example, but think about this for your own business, for your own company that you work with. This is actually your guide to your principles to how you're going to get these brand ambassadors. You need to figure all of this out. It's sometimes quite simple because you may know these answers from the top of your head. You just want to put this down in paper. But because I want to summarize this for you, and because I'm really cool to you, I'm going to put just 3 points on how you build your brand ambassadors after all of this. So the first thing is identifying them. I told you guys how did we identify them. If you want to go technical, well, how you do that, you go into a report, and you look at the most active users who generated the most number of corrected solutions or correct answers, or who received most likes or most kudos, whatever way you do in your community. So this is the way for you to identify who are these guys. What's the second most important thing you do once you identify them? And that's probably like the one thing that no one wants to do. You want to reach out individually. You actually go and then like, hey, thanks for your participation. And doing that individually, or if I can translate that, is doing things that don't scale. I don't know if you know Paul Graham. He's one of the founders of Y Combinator, one of the biggest incubators in the world. They actually incubated Dropbox, for example. So doing things that don't scale. Airbnb, Brian Chesky, he did that at the beginning. So how did actually Airbnb grow? They had like all of these crappy listings, like crappy houses. They actually went in with a really good camera, took pictures themselves, uploaded the pictures themselves, because they found out that best pictures would give better, more listings, more bookings. So they started to do that themselves. And obviously this is not scalable, right? But this is a way for you to make it more relevant. So things that don't scale are not necessarily bad things, especially when I know like Facebook or big companies tend to think big, or like, oh, I have to do that at scale. Maybe you don't need to start with scale. You start with something really small. And the small thing here would be like, oh, I saw you really pay attention. Thank you so much for being here, man. What's your name? Do you mind inviting your friend? And then you'd be like, yeah, sure, this is great. And you feel valued. You feel like, hey, he paid attention to me. Like he said, like I was there, paying attention, and he noticed me. This is great. So this is like really important. And then the third thing you do is, I'm sorry if I jumped in here. Once you do it, like this is what I did at Dropbox. You kind of like, you want to make them valuable. Like in this case, obviously you guys are physically here, but at Dropbox I created this like cards at Dublin, and I asked all the engineers to sign the cards saying thank you to each super user. It started with like a small group of like 6 to 10 super users. It wasn't that big, so it was fine. They had to sign like a couple of times. And then I was like, this is actually a box from the phone that we had. And I just took off, all ripped up everything. And then I got like a sticker, so it made it look like a Dropbox box, but it wasn't really a Dropbox box. So you do that, like this, for example, like one of the responses I got from the super user, look at the date, 26th of December. You're like, Merry Christmas. You see how engaged they feel, like they're like, hey, I want to get back to you. So that helps. And then the third thing you do with them is actually give them access and rewards. So what does that mean? Access is not necessarily opening up like secrets and roadmaps with them. You can actually literally just give them a space that no one else can actually get into, or a VIP pass, or whatever it is. Or think about this like for you guys, when you have like, I don't know, what's your favorite rock star, or like, I don't know, Lady Gaga, whatever. So Lady Gaga is here, and they're like, you're going to get VIP pass so you can go for dinner with her. This is access. And you're like, fuck, I love that. I want to do that. And that makes you feel valued, right? Like, just like the access. What's rewards? Rewards, I mean, this is like, I'm going to give you an example of my dog. He's actually trained through the positive reinforcement. What does that mean? Is every time he does something good, he gets a treat, right? Like a free food. And it's not because he's doing something bad, I'm going to penalize him. It's when he's doing something good, I'm going to actually reward him. And you do the same for users. You're like, hey, thanks for being great. I'm going to actually reward you for keeping quiet or for engaging. And you're like, hey, thanks for laughing. Here's a treat for you. I'm not going to do that for you guys. I know you laughed there at the back, but yeah. So you want to kind of like make them feel valued through that, right? And the way we actually give that to Dropbox, and we did that in the past, was this. Apart from me here, do you know anyone else in the picture? Anyone? Let me give you a hint. Do you know anyone else in the picture? Oh, yeah, yeah. So this is Dropbox CEO. He was like with the super users. We hang out together. This is like insane, right? Like how often do you go to hang out with like a multi-billionaire CEO and ask him like, hey, what's up? It's not that often, right? I mean, maybe it is for some of you guys, I don't know. But this is for these guys, this was like, what? This is insane. Like, I mean, I'm sitting beside the guy that I'm super excited about, and I can talk to him about anything. This is actually prime time, because not even employees had time to talk to him like these guys had. They like sat down like in a room, like spoke to him, made jokes with him, gave him like a cowboy hat. It was like a level of conversation you wouldn't have like in any other place. And this is insane, because this type of access is what actually makes you really resonate with the brand and really feel like I belong here and I want to kind of like continue helping this. So this is kind of the things you want to do. So are you guys still with me? Does it make sense still? Cool. So this is another graph that I created. The graphs that I created are really bad. This is kind of like how I feel you kind of keep doing these things. So I'm going to bring the example of Dark Patch again. So you have educate. Like, what does that mean? I hope I am teaching you guys something new, or at least giving you guys some inspiration for something. And you're going to listen. Yeah, cool. And the guys here actually giving like the PowerPoints and all of this stuff, they're enabling us to get that going, right? And what does that create is like a relationship between all of us. So we're doing all of that. Look at the cool graph, cool. So it creates a relationship between us, because we're like, yeah, there's something here that I actually can associate with. I can discuss later on with my friend, or we can actually discuss between ourselves. And that kind of thing is what you want to do with your community as well. You get them, ask them questions, teach them something, tell them something new that they didn't know. Ask them about something and listen to them. So you actually create that kind of like the loop. It's not about you guys always explaining to them. So I kind of like doing that. And then I create another cool kind of thing that I do, which is my Ads 3Cs. And this is not only for Dropbox. I do that a lot of eDublin as well. This is kind of my North Star for eDublin, which is you want to create content. You want to make sure that you're always producing something new for them. But you also want to curate stuff. So curation is getting things that are out there, putting in front of them, letting them discuss this, letting them know what's going on. But above all, consistency. What makes a Michelin star restaurant a Michelin star restaurant? Consistency. You don't go to the restaurant where the burger is great and then the other day is like burnt. You actually want to go there and expect the same beautiful burger. And as bad as it sounds, this is why McDonald's is so successful. It's like it's consistently bad, right? So you always you know exactly what to expect. It's a junky food, but you know exactly what's going to taste when you go there. It's not like, ooh, this one is spicy. It's not. It's going to be the same taste. So consistency, to me, this is the most important thing ever in everything you do. You don't want to be different the next day or be less productive or be less, I don't know, challenging. You want to kind of keep consistent with things you do. If you're teaching them something new and they expect you to every single Monday have something new for them, suddenly one Monday you have nothing and they're like, oh man, what happened? If the guys here are doing like the meetups every single Thursday, next Thursday you'll be like, where's the meetup? And if it's not, you'll be like, you get frustrated. So consistency is the most important thing. And why all of this is important? Because, well, people are willing to pay more. And this may be important for you guys, actually, if you're doing this as a marketing or sales tool. When you actually get great support, sales bump. Like, this is natural. It just goes up. And traditional support won't help that. So you have to do through other ways. And when you get ambassadors, that helps you do that as well. So let me go back to the first question I asked you guys, which is, why? Why are we doing all of this, right? So why do you guys want to do your communities? Why do you feel it's important to be here, to network? Why is it important to do the job the way you do? So I always think, like, why is quite a powerful word. So think about this every time you're doing something. Like if you're thinking about like, I want to expand my community or I want to actually work in a brand ambassador program, why do you want to do that? Like why is this important? For you or for them as well? So with that, thank you guys.
I just wanted to ask you, do you find or do you feel that brands should be becoming more humanized on social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a challenge to that. You want to become more humanized, and I think a lot of like inbound strategy is around becoming more sounding like you're a human, not like just like, hey, thanks to the brand. It's like thanks, John. It's it's changing to become more human in that sense. We just need to be careful with like not sounding fake as well. So it's a mix between how you do things that they're natural, but they're not necessarily forcing you to stay there. You're like, come on, dude, don't bullshit me. I know it's just a fake bot truck, doing this. So with communities, the joy of community is that it's almost like you train the trainer. You're like, the more you give to the super users, they will give back to the community themselves. So that's the most natural way of doing things because they're not the brand. They can talk about whatever they want. We never actually had any policy around, you shouldn't say that. It's always like, say what you want and the way you want. So that gives us like this super natural, organic kind of way of like, hey, you're talking about things in the most natural and human way. So the responsibility of the brand or the community manager is just to make sure that these guys are empowered and informed enough so they know what to talk about. They don't say like wrong information rather than just, because they didn't have training or didn't have access to something.
Thank you.
Cool. There's a question here in front.
Oh, sorry. Can I just ask in the meantime, for companies in the enterprise space, have you had any experience about setting up customer advisory boards? Like I know some of the things you already talked about can transfer to that space, but if you have any experience on that.
Yeah, we did that at Dropbox actually. We call this Alpha program. Usually you have a beta, which is a subset of users have access, but Alpha would be even before it's live. You get this set of users that are usually enterprise level to test some feature that we're working on. The best way to do that, to be honest, is the least amount of people involved possible. The more you get, the harder it gets for you to control. So what we were doing was getting like 5, 6 companies, inviting them for breakfast, getting them to test something, give the feedback, and then leave. When you do research, you will find out that research usually happens with like 5, 6 users. You don't need to get more than that. That gives you enough to figure out what's working or not. So I would go for that path. I wouldn't go like in scale like a lot of companies do.
And for me, what was the key metric to measure success for you?
In the community?
Yeah.
A couple of them that I showed, like I had to kind of fly through, but usually in the community, and to give you guys some context on like what we measure as like, is the community going well or not? So there are a few things. If your community is brand new, you want to grow that, so you want to kind of drive traffic, so you want to increase the number of people who are seeing that. You want to increase the number of active users, so people who are coming back to you, so that's like activity, return rates, that's a second like a layer. You want to then go into engagement levels, so how many times are people posting questions, answering questions, liking stuff, or sharing stuff, the kind of traditional engagement metrics. But then, to the super user's point, it's much more important to me to see the ratio of answers that are actual solutions than just answers. Because if I say like, hey, I have a question, you're like, me too. Well, I engaged, right? So I replied, but it's not necessarily a meaningful answer, where a meaningful answer would be like, oh, I can help you with that. And this is kind of what we say a meaningful engagement metric, not necessarily engagement for the sake of like, they're interacting with the platform, they're actually giving something that has value. So that's how we would measure success, especially for super users. I don't care if they had like 1 reply in that month, but if that 1 reply was an actual solution, it's much more important to me. So that would be the key metric.
Thank you.
Cool. More questions? Feel free to ask. I mean, if there's stuff I cannot talk about Dropbox, it's fine. I won't talk about, but I can give you some idea based on just whatever I've done. No. Someone's asking if there's more beer. No? Oh, later. Don't worry. Cool. If there's no more question, thank you guys again. Katie. Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for your attention. So once we compile the video of the talk and some pictures, I'll put it up in the meetup group. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, I know Ed's going to be able to hang around for a little while, so you can approach him in secret. But thanks so much for coming, and we hope to see you guys next time, okay? Bye now.